There you are.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram.
Very good Saturday morning to you. Sriram, before I formally start the chat show, I want to give a preliminary.
Your audio is not so great, but let me see whether it's from my end. Can you hear me?
Because the Bluetooth will interfere. So
no, this is a earphone, a wired earphone. So I think now it's better. Now it's better. Yeah.
Perfect. So with that, friends, all of you, welcome to the Saturday chat show on Instagram Live of the NSYNC television. We have been interviewing classical last almost 20 weeks. Vocalist, instrumentalist, and percussionist. And today we have a very, very exciting guest to join us. And before I formally ask him to join, a few remarks in the Carnatic classical music tradition. Indian artists have started their life with playing of violin and then slowly became a vocalist. And many names come to my mind from, Balamurali Krishna ji, or for that matter, Lalgudi Jayaraman ji, who was an accomplished vocalist. Then we had the Ranjini Gayatri sisters, who formally started playing violin and then became a vocalist. And in that scheme of things, Sriram Parasuram, who actually started as a violinist and later on became a very popular vocalist, Carnatic vocalist, So Dr. Sriram Parasuram, a mix of knowledge, a repository of knowledge. Sriram Parasuram on the chat show. And would you like to make some preliminary remarks, Sriram, before you go ahead?
Yeah, namaskaram, and a very good morning to all of you. I'm very happy, and it's a great joy to be with Ganesh Kumar ji. Ganesh Kumar ji and me and my family go back a very, very long way, many decades. As a fellow musician, as somebody who is so passionate about music and devotion and all that, and he's a wonderful example of a great organizer in terms of furthering and taking our music to newer levels in the modern age. So it's a great joy, and Ganesh Kumar ji and me share a good rapport in so many domains. In terms of, we have been together on various forums, such as the Music Forum and NCP and this and that. He and I also share a great amount of passion for Abhangs. Ganesh is an authority on that, and I am also in my own way. I pursue and seek the wisdom and joy and the music of the poetry of the Abhang. So that's also something where we are in a common domain. So it's indeed a great. I'm looking forward to having a fun time with Ganesh ji on this show. And welcome to all of you. And I guess I don't know. This is the first time I'm doing an Insta Live, so I don't know how people ask questions and all that. But let us take it. Ganesh is a stalwart, so he will take me through this.
We're all, humble in our own way. And Sriram, thank you for those nice words that you mentioned. Yes, we do share a lot of passion in terms of promotion and nurture of good music, whether it is classical music or whether it is or whatever. We all share that passion for promoting good music. Now, if you notice on the bottom of the screen, the name of the person who joined, their name flashes, and in case they have a small question, mention it there. And otherwise, participate in the conversation. So I will take a call whether that question which they mentioned is to be and things like that. So with that, I'm going to start this casual chat show in a slightly mysterious manner, if you permit me. If you're a Bombayite, I'm taking the liberty.
Yeah.
Okay. We all know your musical prowess, so to say. But Shar, how did you manage to meet your wife, the Chennai girl, and how did that romance start? How did it continue, and how did it blossom into a life of togetherness, Sriram?
I had gone to the US to do my master's in Western violin, Western classical violin performance. I finished my master's, and then I had joined. I got a fellowship to do my PhD,
Mhm.
doctoral work at the Wesleyan University, which is a very
Mhm.
reputed university for world music. So I had gone there for my PhD, and Anuradha, who was also the great T. Vishwanathan's student, the T. Vishwanathan, the flute, and he was a resident faculty at Wesleyan, and so she had come there to do a master's. So we met at the university, and you know how it is in the universities 25 years back, where the seniors, I was already there, I was a PhD student, I was a senior. So how we welcome the freshers who have just come from India, and we find housing for them, try to make them feel at home, take them through the ropes of opening bank account and all those things of getting telling where the supermarkets are, where you get this, that, and making them feel at home. So that's when I met her. As a senior student, we are the graduate office enlists our help to make sure that these new students are put in place and comfortably, in the university. So I met her that way, and of course she had heard about me, and she had actually written a letter to me before coming, because the juniors who are coming are informed about these are your seniors. If you need any help from them, you
Was
can
it
always.
was it a normal letter, or was it like a letter which Rukmini wrote to Krishna in Dwaraka?
No, no, no. It was a very normal letter. Her father actually wrote, and she had, I think, written a couple of lines. So asking what to bring from India, what you don't get there. So I had told things like pressure cooker and all that stuff, things which you don't get in the US, which we didn't get at that time. Now, of course, everything is available. It was a letter like that. And then, of course, my reply to her, there were no WhatsApp calls and all that. So we had to write letters. So my reply to her, it seems, reached her on Ramanavami Day. So her father already started entertaining thoughts of maybe this is the boy from my daughter. So up to your, because it came on that auspicious day of Ramanavami, he received it on that day. So of course, she joined, and she's also such an exceptional singer and a musician. She had already finished her MA here and won the gold medal. So it was it was very natural that we met and became fond of each other. Music being the bridge through which we connected. And the US can be a lonely place for a PhD student in music, because, especially Indian music, you don't have much of that company of what is called and the sahavasa and that satsanga you don't have, unless you go to different places. In a small town like Wesleyan, to talk about classical music, or to sit and practice together, or to share repertoire, all those things are very difficult. So when Anuradha came, it was like a whiff of fresh air for me to talk about music, to sing together, practice together, share experiences, share thoughts. So it began that way. Then, of course, as time went on, within the first 6 months, she was a very plain girl. Plain girl in the sense, conservative family and all that. I was a little bit more, what can I say, a little more, I had seen more of the world in terms of having studied at IIM, and I had been ruined enough by university education and hostel life. So for her, her liking for me was very instant. And for me, it was a little more prolonged. And because she proposed to me within 3 months. So I was not so ready for it. And then after the first year, Amma Patasuli, her father came and visited us in the US to check out this prospective bridegroom. So then it was finalized. They also spoke to my parents, and it was formalized. Yeah.
So it was kind of a history. Radha marrying Sriram.
Yeah. Those are just names. Yeah, it is basically all of them are forms of Vishnu. So there is no problem there.
Okay. Now, let me go back to a formal beginning of the chat. If I know it right, your entire childhood was spent in Mumbai, in Chembur, and your
Yes.
father was a great enthusiast and was a kind of patron of classical music. So many institutions located in Mumbai, Parashuramji, and your mother was an accomplished singer, and
Yeah.
all your siblings, your brother, your other brother, they were all involved in music. So can you speak a little about your childhood? How did you study that? Did you do your normal childhood pranks? Did you play cricket? Were you very brash, or were you a brat, or were you so tell us about your childhood and
I think of the four of us, answering the latter part of the question first. We are four children. My sister is eldest. She was a doctor, and then my elder brother Vishwanath, who is the CEO of Current Details. Then me, and then my younger brother Narayan. Like you said, all of us were very keenly and intensely involved in music. It was my father's dream uh, for music to be the thing that holds the family together. And it's a dream that, to a great extent, Ishwara fulfilled for, because all of us did do very well. We learned for a long period of time, and we also excelled to a great extent in it. For him, education also was very important. So, because he was the state first in Kerala and at his 10th exam, SSLC. But of course, because of family situation, he could not continue studying further. So for him, excellence in education also was very critical. It was very important that his children excelled in studies. And that too, by God's grace, we all did. I was always a topper. I was academically very good. A lot of it which I attribute to music, my music learning, which I started at the age of 3. I think music learning is such a powerful overall brain tool that it helps you excel in all aspects of the. See, the brain doesn't differentiate between its use in music or physics or economics or whatever. So the sharpening of faculties of imagination, of analysis, etc., which Carnatic music requires, is something that finds expression and achieves excellence in all fields. That's what I really strongly understand now. So for me, studying and excelling in academics, and so too for my sister was very on the top of the class. My brothers were also. So it is not just intelligence, academic intelligence. It's because of our music pursuit that we could, and it was quite effortless. I don't remember studying for long hours or breaking my head for exams, etc. It was quite effortless, and I give a lot of credit to the music learning that made all this possible. And my sister is 5 years elder than me. She was playing the violin. She started playing the violin. And I used to imitate her when I was 3. With the help of 2 foot rulers, I used to imitate her. And one day, my guru, S.R. Ramakrishna Sharma, Sri S.R. Ramakrishna Sharma, who was Lalguru Jayaraman sir's senior most disciple, he was teaching at Bharatiya in Mumbai, and he was also taking private. So he was teaching my sister. Every week, twice a week, he used to come home. And so, seeing my Akka, I used to imitate. And one day, he told my father, this boy is not just imitating. His fingering is perfect. He's playing all the gamakas. Only thing you're not able to hear it because he's using the foot ruler. 1 foot ruler vertically and 1 foot ruler horizontally. And then he said, I will teach this boy for free because he is a prodigy. I can make out. And then for about 8 years, I learned from him. So my sister was the reason why I started playing the violin. And because Amma was a singer, and my elder brother, me, my sister, all of us used to learn vocal from her. And then we also used to go for vocal class to her guru, Pudukkodu Krishnamurti Bhagavatar, who was also in Chembur, a great teacher and a great musician. And then my elder brother, Vishwanath, was learning Mridanga. And B.U. Subramanya Sir, who was Sabhay Sayer student, he was there in Chembur. And so I also started learning Mridanga. I learned Mridanga for about 7-8 years. So this vocal, violin and Mridanga were happening simultaneously. Fortunately, during our times, we didn't have much of distraction. We used to play a lot. We used to work harder. It was very normal for us to get up at 5 in the morning because that was, everybody used to get up so early. because there is no TV, so you go to bed early. You go to bed at 9, you get up at 5. It's quite, not a big deal. Today, if I have to get up at 5, it seems like a Herculean task. But those days, I think it was very natural. So, Kartalandu, you get up in the morning, do your studies, do 1 hour of practice, do some slokas, pray, and then go to school. And then evening time, 3 hours used to be reserved for playing cricket, playing all this, 7 stones and hide and seek and ice prize, dodgeball and all that. So, of course, games then were much simpler because of less resources also. We played cricket, but we played the tennis ball and rubber ball cricket. So, no pads, no nothing. The ball and the diagram of 3 stumps, that's all we required. And a broken down bat, which was probably 7, 8 years old. So that's what it required. So we used to play hockey on the roads. There were much less cars and motorcycles. So the roads were our playgrounds. Correct? There was no fear. There was a lot of parents were not anxious. So we used to spend evenings playing a lot. And of the 4 of us, I was the most mischievous. I was the most bratish, arrogant, talking back and getting hurt and hitting others and stuff like that. That's what they say. That's what my sister always says. You got it with so much of, being not such a model boy, whereas we had to always be at the best behavior.
So I remember, I think we lived in a place called Shell Colony, which was a kind of middle class, and it had a lot of music in and around. There was a large ground where, the great stars like Yeshudas ji will come for a Shanta Party concert. So Shell Colony had a lot of music. Sriram Parasuram incidentally used to 4-5 days, and a lot of singers from all over will come. And I have a vague memory of your singing and Vishwanath come, and I think you were playing violin. So
Violin.
It's happening in Shell Colony. Even we had invited my big Navratri, and they used to come. The fun way, and I think Sriram, if I may attribute the one fundamental reason for your musical greatness today, it is that ecosystem which naturally happened around you in terms of your family, in terms of the immediate society, and in terms of a suburb, because Chembur has produced a lot of talent. You have Shankar Mahadevan, you have Vidya Balan, you have Dr. Sriram Parasuram, and all these names have come from Chembur, possibly because Chembur strangely has a very creative creative juice flowing all around. And maybe you studied in oil fields, right?
Yes.
So even the school had a lot of cultural events, and you had a lot of show your talent, and all slowly over a period of time hone them. And then there was a sudden shift of yourself from Mumbai to Chennai, and then all over the world. Now tell us that transformative, because in childhood many children show that promise, but very few really mount the platform ultimately. So how did that transformation happen, Sriram?
See, the credit for this has to only go to my parents and gurus. My father was such a visionary in terms of very holistic. In the sense, there was at no point in my life did I feel any pressure to become successful as a performer or whatever. It was all his sacrificing, my parents' life, sacrificing everything for their children's music and education, was something which was so deep, and it was so effortless as far as they were concerned, as it seemed. And it was never, because when I look back, taking us to all these concerts, they spent all their money. My mother didn't, and my father didn't buy her a single piece of jewelry into 25 years of marriage. So that kind of giving oneself up for the education, and we were very meager means. It's not as if my father was a stenographer at Bharat Petroleum. So it was to bring up a family of 6 or 8. Even my grandparents were staying with me. So just meeting ends, that's all. There was not 1 rupee surplus to go to a movie, but we never felt the lack. We never owned a car. My father never bought a single piece of property in his life. It was a rented apartment, housing board apartment. But for him, what was the most magical thing was that his children are responding to his sacrifices and efforts in music, for teaching us music. So at one point in time, about 50% of his salary was going towards paying the fees of the gurus. Which is, thinking back, I wonder whether a 1 in a million will be able to make that kind of commitment. And he kept the gurus so happy. About double, he used to give them double the fees. They used to eat at home. And he took care of their children also later on. So that kind of commitment to the guru, which my father showed, I think in some ways those blessings remain with us forever. Even today, some of the children of my gurus have all passed away. But their children recollect my parents so fondly and with so much love, genuine love. And Kacherik, all concerts in fine arts, in Bhakta Ranjani Sabha, Amshaktinagar, in Shanmukhanada, which was a little far away. Going to Shanmukhanada will mean, as a small child of 4 or 5, will mean that I will fall asleep during the concert. I will listen to about 1 hour, 1.5 of the concert, and I will fall asleep. And so while coming back, it would mean that we have to take a cab home, which is big money, which is we never traveled by cab. We always travel by BST bus. But if I fall asleep, he will carry me on the shoulder and bring me back home by cab. So things like that. Not a single concert that we have missed attending. And though my father he was not a trained musician. His passion for music was very deep and genuine. But he could not understand many things. But he knew that he had to provide that, like you say, the ecosystem is so critical. In today's atmosphere, that is what is slightly lacking. We have so many resources, but that very simple and basic fertile ecosystem for making sure that the child genuinely resonates with the love for music or love for any arts and is able to carry it as a life force within him or her for a lifetime. It is music learning, especially classical music learning, is not just for you to dabble in it and give some concerts. No, it is a life force. If you remove the music from some of the greatest musicians, there's almost a zero there. But that too, my father made sure that we were well educated. So I did my engineering at BJTI. So my normal life track also was maintained by God's grace. I excelled in my 12th. I got admission into BJTI. I did my mechanical engineering, and then I got a couple of plum jobs. But I also got into the IIM. So I got into 3 IIMs. So Calcutta is what I chose. So I went there. I finished my MBA. So it's as if God's plan for me, Ishwara's plan for me, was a very normal assimilated childhood, a very normal and well-adjusted teenage and adolescent and young years. Because my music was always like a kodanda for me, all the time with me, and but it was not at the cost of. And my father was very clear that he didn't want to push us into being child prodigies. And though we started performing, it was always in ways that were convenient for us, such that our education also was not done. Unlike many children, many prodigies who get pushed into performance, and that becomes their mainstay. He wanted us to have a very full life. Many times when I talk to some of the prodigies, there is a sense of deprivation that he probably didn't get to lead normal teenage years, go to movies, bunk classes, sit around and hang out and chat with friends and go on excursions and stuff like that. These are all parts of a normal growing up pattern, correct, in our lives. They also lead to a more holistic and well-adjusted emotional development. So those kinds of things also we never missed out. So in many ways, my parents made it possible for us to, in the aphorism, to have the cake and eat it. We had the cake and we also ate it. Yeah, that kind of a very balanced. It's a great grace of Ishwara. I always say, "Adapli amanjadu solva" in Tamil. They say it just fell in place like that.
Well, I must make this point that you had a 360-degree life. It's not that their life was just centered around music, or that, for that matter, centered around education or play or whatever. You were a normal childhood kid where your parents kind of pushed you into music to have a very intense connect with music by not only trying to teach you, but also to ensure that you interacted with big stalwarts who came to perform.
Yes.
You could the Fine Arts Society or the Rasika Engineering. You could understand what classical music actually meant on a platform. Not just
Yes. Yeah.
intense connect actually happened very organically without anything being pushed or any compromises. Childhood for the evolution of a child. But then, I must make this point for the sake of some of these listeners listening to us, the young people who are listening to us, that a lot of people have a feeling that classical music is something that is there at a distance, which you cannot experience. So you have to have a lot of time, and you need to have a lot of guru. You need to have a lot of resources and a lot of time to. But from your experience, it's very apparent that nothing of its sort needs to be done. A normal dedication to learn good music, normal timeline, and normal childhood, and normal youthful connect with classical music, and yet you can reach the peak with that. But dedicated effort, dedicated and I'm happy that Abhijit Kohankar has also joined, because he also has a very similar experience in his life. He also belongs to a musical family, and today is a great keyboard player in classical music. The point that I'm trying to make on behalf of the Instinct channel and the Instinct is that the youngsters need to show that level of dedication. It's not the question of money. It's not the question of the guru. Of course, you need a right guru, but it's good enough to take on to somebody. And a normal standard approach to classical music will enable them to hone this talent, and they can become big one of these days. So the youngsters realize that this is our tradition. This is, after all, that's something that. And if people, who else is going to do it? Today, there is a very stylish to have a foreigner come to India and learn our music. But it is so natural for Indians to take it, whether it is places like Varanasi, Kashi, or Chennai. You have that way of life. You can become a great artist.
But with a slight, I would also add that there is a certain element of things have to happen in the right way. Things you have to, like you said, you have to find the correct gurus, not necessarily famous gurus. My gurus were not world famous or very successful, but as gurus, they were absolutely fantastic. So one also needs to have that vision. The parents need to have that vision. There is no need to go. The person in the next street might be a great teacher for some time for your child, and instilling the basics may be better off with him or her rather than some very, very world famous guru who will not be able to give you time. So it's important to recognize that there are hundreds of students who claim to be students of Sheshagopalan sir or this or that or whatever. But we know that since they are so successful as performers, they are not going to be in the station 300 days of the year. So it is very important for the parents to have that vision that the child needs to develop, and child needs to develop a love and passion, not necessarily to succeed or to achieve fame. It is that passion will take him or her wherever destiny takes. For me also, I find now I'm coming back a full circle in terms of now my dedication and passion to learning for the last 10 years has been very, very intense. It's like as if I am starting from scratch, and that is due to the values that my father has instilled so deeply in me. I might know 1,000 compositions, but I want to learn the 1,001 first composition. Also, learn to sing. I might have sung Bhairavi or Todi 100,000 times and very, very well, but I still feel like a beginner. It is that value which has been very beautifully and very unobtrusively put. My father has never expressed these things in words, but I see that it is through his actions and through his intense faith in these values that the cultural upbringing happened. I used to feel a little, what can I say, difference of opinion with him at different points as to why he liked M.D. Ramanathan or why he liked Ramnath Krishnan. He was not a musician, so I felt that being a musician when I was in teens, I felt I was more qualified to say who was better. But now, after 40, 45 years later, I feel that he was all the time a better judge of what is great music than I am. That's because of the very intrinsic connect. It's not a technical connect.
Consent. They were the conscience.
Conscience, yeah, yeah. And very genuine appreciation as to what is of value in music. That seems to have shifted a little bit in the last few decades. What is of value in music? Is it the flash? Is it the thrill? Is it the entertainment value, or is it something much deeper? You know, so an N.D. Ramanathan or an Amit Hassan are not going to appeal to you at the surface, but they become your life partners throughout your life. Kumar Gandharva his sound and his music lives with me. I have never met him. I've seen him in a concert, but still, their presence is very alive and real for me. So this is the kind of passion that gets instilled because of the values of my parents.
You unwittingly made a very profound statement, Sriram. You said you must have sung a kriti maybe 1,000 times, but the first time when you sing, you have a different experience. So
Yes.
it's like a circle which has no beginning and no end.
No
So
end,
when you
no end.
the second time the same circle, your experience is very different because you are
Yes.
in a different perspective of the same kriti. So for a
Yeah.
musician, it's an endless process. It is not that it begins and then ends there or nothing of that sort. It just keeps
Yeah.
happening again and again and again. And
Yeah.
similarly, music is a similar experience.
Absolutely.
The raga. Some people like the aspect. Some people like the composition, the bhava, the bhava of the kriti. So for different rasikas, there are different take-home points, and each
Yes.
one takes something else. And according to good music is that sleeps with
Yes.
when you
Yes.
and when you come back. And if you're going to sleep with that, what you heard throughout the night, I think that touches. That is good music, whether it is a
Yes.
Carnatic or a Hindustani or what have you. But ultimately, when the music engulfs you, kind of envelops you, so you have gone through the experience as a good Rasika. You have
Yes.
had controversial moments with your father, who said, maybe yes to something, no to something. So all this enables you to get a filled experience. But I'm coming back to the situation where your life transformed from a learner to a performer. So I want to
Yeah.
hear more about that.
No, there is no transformation. It's a natural process by which I'm always a learner. That is also something which, for example, this morning I was teaching a student in America. I was teaching him a bhajan of Surdas in the Raga Darbari. So I was teaching him Darbari.
Can you just hum
And
it,
then,
please? Can you just hum it?
yeah, sure thing. So I am discovering this Gandhara of Darbari as if for the first time.
Oh.
You know, it is so infinite in its beauty that there is so much more to discover. Ma padani sa ni sa da ni da ni ga ma ni ba ma ni ba da ba ma di da di. So as I was trying to explain the Gandhara to my student, I came across a different dimension of it. Not I've heard Darbari 1,000 times, I sing it well, but I said this Gandhara is restless. Sare ga ga. It is not a gamaka, it is not a vibrato, it is nothing. It is a tone of the Gandhara, which every time is different. And it seems as if it is that Gandhara is searching for something. Sare ga ga da da ma sare ga ma pa da
Wow.
So Kumar Gandhar was tuning of this Surdas bhajan. Giridhara Prijadhara Muralidhara Giridhara Prijadhara Muralidhara. He will make this murali so resonant because it is after all the Lord's instrument he plays. Giridhara Prijadhara Muralidhara Nirdhara Madhu Pitambaradhara Nirdhara Madhu. That Panchama, when Kumarji sings it, it will be so perfect. You cannot alter even one small element. Nirdhara Madhu Pitambaradhara. The Pita Ambara. See, we will casually say that the Pitambara is the Vastra of Krishna. Correct? But what does Pitambara means? The Pila Ambara, the golden Vastra that he wears, is the golden sky. Ambara. That in which, the glow of which we live. Our existence is within that golden umbrella of Krishna. So it is, so that under Pitambara, that is the sky. Pitambara. And Dhara is again very important because Dhara means Dharati, the holder of. Pitambara, Giridhara, Prijadhara. Again, Giridhara. That the four D's, D, have to be powerful enough to hold up the mountain. Giridhara, Prijadhara. Nirdhara Madhu Pita. This is the colors of the sky. So as infinite and multiple millions and zillions of colors in the sky. You look at the sky anytime and then it is never the same. So Darbari too. So Darbari also gives me, I can keep on learning from the Raga. The Raga is so generous. It is so generous. That's why we call her the goddess. Because she's so generous and she keeps giving and giving, whether you deserve or not. I don't know if I deserve this Darbari. But she's so generous and so compassionate that she keeps giving. Yeah. So at such deep levels, one is always a learner. One never becomes a performer. Performance is something where you make others happy. But here is where you are actually living with the music. That's how the great visions are lived. As to every, for example, all of them say that. M.S. Gopalakrishnan used to tell that every time I play this Kruti, it's as if I'm sitting in a snake pit. MSG is one of the greatest sadhakas. Somebody who used to practice 15 hours a day for 25-30 years together in their life. Can you imagine? 15 hours of sadhana. Such perfection, such mastery can only be in fairy tales. But it happened. And he telling me that this is something which I'm still afraid of. A Kruti or a Raga, I sit and play and then I'm afraid.
It's like a child in him.
Yeah, that is the kind of integrity and sincerity that we have.
Yeah.
Nedunuri Krishnamurti sir, just about a week before he passed, I used to go and learn from him and stay at his home sometimes, 1 week and stay. So at that time he says he had a premonition that he is going to pass it. So he said, Sriram, ippotan konjam puriyar madri irukku. So only now that I feel that I'm beginning to understand some Yadukula Kamboji or Badiranke, and it is time to go. That kind of profound learning sense they had. Even Lalgudi sir, I went and sang this Raga Nand. He used to call me to come and sing for him, especially Hindustani Ragas. So I used to sing all these rare ragas like Basanti Kedar and Nand and Ragi and all those ragas, and he used to revel in them. And he told me once when I was singing Nand, ga ma da pa re sa ga ga ma ga pa pa da ni pa da ma pa ga are pa sa. It's a very beautiful melody, a rare melody. So he also was almost very unwell. So he looked at his son and says, "No, there is so much more to learn. Not that he has learned and mastered everything, but it is that value that I cherish, and I'm inspired by that. That he, at the age of 75 and 80, he says there is so much more to learn." And it's a genuine thing. It's not something that you say as a cliche. It's a very genuine feeling. So all these great artists. So how can you stop being? So there is no transformation from a student to a performer. A performer happens as a process.
I'm not going to let you go on that. I will tell you what. See, in a philosophical sense, all of us keep learning. But in the normal way, when you ascend a platform to perform for an audience, the experiences are different. Because whatever you have learned, that process of learning culminates into presenting it in your own methodology.
Yes. Yes.
So definitely that process. That is what I'm trying to arrive at. So how do you...
See, I don't think of myself. For me, the stage is a place where I share. I'm not looking to impress or to win brownie points as to how good a performer I am. I'm there to share with people the joys and the opportunities of music that I have been blessed with. So if I play on the violin a sangati, I'm sharing the sangati with them. I'm just putting in front. So for me, there is not much of a difference. But of course, for a concert, you have to prepare. There has to be that vigor. There has to be that discipline. There has to be that sense of, making sure that the concert is wholesome. It has all the elements. All those are part of the game. Yeah. You have to be able to respect, especially in Carnatic music, the demands that the concert makes is extreme. You have to know Tyagaraja Kritis, Dikshita Kritis, Tamil Kritis, Devarams, Tirupugals, Tilanas, everything you have to present. Unlike Hindustani, the concert preparation is of a more holistic nature. Here it's like preparing for a Kalyanam or something. There are 100 tasks that you have to complete. Swaram Bodhanam, in the Swaras you have to do Kanak, and you have to sing 15 ragas. So all the ragas you have to be able to do Neraval and this, remember all the kritis. So it's a very taxing process. Whereas Hindustani performance, I feel, is a more natural and I won't call it effortless, but it is not as nerve-wracking as a Carnatic music concert. Because in a Carnatic music concert,
I recall in a seminar that we were holding, this aspect of the difference between Hindustani and Carnatic was discussed. And somebody said, the Carnatic concert is a very structured approach. You have to have a systematic design, and it unfolds in that design. You can't, you can't sing a thing and ornamenty, and so it's not allowed. It's not accepted. Not that it cannot be done. It can be done. But the question is, the repertoire trained to appreciate in a particular perspective, in a particular time. So in that sense, it is good, but yet it gives a huge amount of panodharma, a huge amount of imagination. As to how in that structure you are able to embellish the essence of the music. So definitely, things of music, identity have their own, high points to take hold. That you really was that accommodate people. And then you are also a vocalist. But the approach to music is a little different somebody and when you're on your own.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
can you explain about that to the people who are listening?
Accompaniment, competent accompaniment means your level of preparedness has to be very high. You have to be ready in Carnatic music. You have to be ready to meet all challenges that the main artist throws at you, in terms of the kind of ragas, in terms of knowing the kritis, in terms of being able to respond to difficult edukku in the kalpana swara, or calculate in core ways, or connect in or correct in kalpana swara. So your level of overall preparedness has to be very high. But then you may not carry the load of the success of the performance on your shoulders. That is carried by the vocalist. Yeah, by the main performer. I don't use the word main performer because for me all of them are main performers. I remember as a child when I used to go to concerts, sometimes I will go just to listen to Palakkad Raghu sir playing the Muddak. So if somebody asks me, what kacheri are you going to? I will say I'm going to Palakkad Raghu sir's concert. I will not say, I may not say K.V. Narayanaswamy or somebody who's a vocalist. Because, or I'll say I'm going to listen to Lal Giri sir. I will not say it is accompanying for Dedupudi or Arathi brothers. I will say Lal Giri sir again. So that also has changed. I think all the artists have put equal amount of sadhana in their art. So to also look at it with the Veda, that one is a lesser, some that has crept into the Indian performance ethos, that there is a main artist and there are Pakavadyam and there are Upa Pakavadyam also. The poor Kanjira and Ganam fellow is relegated to, a lesser status. But that's a different topic. That has a lot of sociology, economics, etc. involved in that. But for me, accompaniment was, you don't carry the stress of memorizing everything, of structuring the concert, of planning the concert, of making sure that it is presented well. Whereas when you become the soloist, then the entire burden, I would call it the burden, the onus, the responsibility of making it work is on your head, your shoulders. For example, so I recorded for my All India Radio National program just last week. So it's a 1.5 hour program. The first 1 hour, I'm being very candid here. The first 1 hour, Mohanam was good. My Maraveri Ramani in Nasika Pushni was very good. Went off very well. When I came to my main item, so-called main item, Todi, Sri Krishna Rajamanasa, Kriti of Muthuswami Dikshidhar, I found that I was tired. My mind was not in its best shape of exploring. In my concerts, I don't prepare Manodharma at all. I just leave it for the Raga Devata to take me wherever she wants to. Okay, so, but sometimes when you are very tired, and so hence my Todi was not great. Todi was just, in the middle of the Todi, I went into a kind of a what is called autopilot, where I was playing very standard sangatis and playing normal things which everybody plays. And I was extremely, after the concert, I was extremely disappointed. If I were accompanying this on Todi to somebody, and if I didn't give out my best, I would not be so preoccupied with it. Because the responsibility of delivering a whole concert with great mastery is a huge responsibility. So that is the most important thing, and this plays on your mind. So that's why you rarely find the accompanying artist nervous before a concert. But main artists will always be a little edgy and fidgety before the concert. If you have seen even the great artists, even Sheshagopalan sir, or even my Guruji Pandit C.R. Vyas, he was Hindustani, used to, on the day of the concert, he'll be on Maunam, and he will prepare his mind and everything. And in the green room also, he will be slightly edgy. We have to be careful. The Shishas have to be very careful that we make sure our Guruji is in a very good mental state, emotional state, for the concert. So that the responsibility of the concert is a big thing for the main artist. Because as a vocalist, sometimes it is a little freer. It's my personal view that for my vocal concerts, I'm in less tension. The tension has got to do with mainly the health of the voice. That is a source of tension, because You will eat something in the morning and you will have some reflux or some oily kind of feel in the throat, or you have an infection or something like that. But if your voice health is good, and and you generally feel very empowered with your concert, because it is more intimate with you. You can determine it to a greater extent. Whereas an instrumental solo, violin solo, is a little more, you have to walk a little tighter, is what my experience is. Singing, especially for me, last 20 years, I started singing very late. Even though I was learning to sing from so many gurus, all my gurus only taught me vocal. After my first 7-8 years of violin training, everybody else I learned from Veena K.S. Song, also vocal. Then I learned from so many people, Tanjavur Shankariya, vocal. Even Hindustani music, I learned vocal. I used to translate it on violin, because by that time I was capable of doing that. So vocal is, but I started performing only for the past 20 years. So I'm now like you say, like a small child. I'm very young in my singing exploits. So many times nowadays I sit down to practice my violin, and I half an hour down my practice, I realize I started singing. It happens in my concerts also. Sometimes in my violin concerts, I will feel that let me just sing this charanam for the audience to appreciate the sahitya and the bhava better. Because the instrument cannot totally convey bhava as effective as the voice does. So suddenly I will burst into song. So singing is a more intimate thing, I feel. If you have the gift of a good voice and good facility and good gamaka shuddha and all that, singing is very, very intimate. And there's many instrumentalists also at home. It's a very intimate thing.
I want to go back to your observation on the Darbari. You mentioned some time back. The Gandhara in Darbari, you saw a different color when you were trying to teach Gurudas Bhajan to your student.
Yeah.
But for many people, Carnatic music, you need to understand the greatness of this music. They think that it is just an oscillation between the two notes. You keep telling them, an oscillation between the two notes, but even on a single note, with the power of your voice, you can give different. The note is not changing, only the intensity of the same note is undergoing some changes. So all this micro actually embellish Carnatic music, and the Rasika, according to me, my very, very personal perspective, needs to be a little more evolved to enjoy Carnatic music. Otherwise, the beauty of Carnatic music may not really sink in unless you are like you also mentioned that your father liked some music which maybe you did not like. So
at that time,
So they have experienced the music in a certain manner. There is a certain take. So if that take is disturbed, maybe they don't approve of it. So the Carnatic Rasika, according to me, is more demanding because of his ability to understand and perceive. He is more demanding than normal North Indian Rasika. I don't want to say Hindustani Rasika. North Indian Rasika. The South Indian Rasika are a little more demanding, critical. If they feel very disturbed about it. So what is your opinion on that?
No, in every experience, there are two levels at which we experience things. One is these are not watertight compartments, but just for understanding. At the level of the intellect, there is a certain amount of rasikatva, at the level of the intellect. And at the level of the sensual pleasure of listening to beautiful sound or complex sound, there is a sense of rasikatva. And at a very deeper level of the Atma, there is also a rasikatvam there, of it fulfilling some very, very spiritual space within you. So in the three levels of rasikatvam, Carnatic music requires you to know what Begada is. You need to know to enjoy that this is Begada. The knowledge is presupposed. There is this element of jnana that is required. You cannot just listen to this and enjoy it as just sound. So the Gambiram of the Raga, Now, no way can this be broken down. Gama, Padava. There are so many microtone colors of gamakas and anuswaras and timbral changes. It's impossible. Gama, Padava. That gamaka itself is not just an oscillation. The oscillation is the basic level at which you will try to look at it. But it's so much more. Gama, Padava. Pada ni pada now ni is on ni is not that pada ni, the tightening of the voice, then the falsetto there ni all that is part of the music even the pronunciation of that nishada, it's not ni Dava, that dava just fades out as relaxed. Dava is tight. Dava is relaxed. Dava, can you feel that? It's not dava, it's not that. Dava, that dava, that's Saukyam. Dava will make you sit up. And that dava, then second dava will make you just relax. So the amount of sophistication and complexity of sound in our great musics, in both Carnatic and Hindustani, is something which defies all description. You just have to. How do you describe a rose? Correct? How do you describe the fragrance of a jasmine? You cannot. You can write tones and tones of it, but you just smell the jasmine and you are in some other place. Correct? Ade marita, the begada, you listen to it. You can enjoy it with your intellect. Ayukni sang it like this. GNP sang it like this. This is how it is written in this book. In this kriti, the same sangati comes. The phrase is rendered differently. So at so many levels, you can enjoy it with your brain. That is part of the enjoying process. And there is the sensual delight of the sound. Even if you don't know, still there is still scope for you to listen to it, be attracted by it, and then learn. Then your experience of the Begada will become deeper as your knowledge of Begada increases. It is just like physics or any other knowledge system, where you know more about a theory, you enjoy the theory more. Right? Einstein was not just a formula maker. He enjoyed his subject of study and he was in love with it. Though it presupposed intelligence, a great deal of intelligence, there's also the manasa which participates. So the manasa participating is also unrespectful. So you are a rasika at so many levels. So that's why I don't agree when people liken classical music to enjoyment or entertainment. I never look at it as entertainment. Because it is much more than that. It is not just here to please you. It is here to enrich you.
True. Very true.
Enrichment is very important. When you sing an abhang, it is not as if you are reading just a poetry and meaning. It's much, much, much more than that. Correct?
Actually, abhang is beyond music.
Yeah.
It is not music.
Yeah. Yes. Everything comes as a whole. Yeah.
So it's a different canvas. So you're using music as a tool to paint on that canvas. So abhang is a completely different approach to music, where the bhava and the kriti takes more importance, and the musicality takes a slightly backseat. So it is for all kinds of music, the percussive element or what have you. Now, if we may shift to slightly the Hindustani aspect, you also trained under Pandit C.R. Vyas, and you are considered equally adept at both Carnatic and Hindustani, and there are very few names that we can give who are adept at both. There are a few, but very rare. So, what is your journey in the Hindustani learning process and the performance?
My father was a great devotee of Hindustani music. So he was beyond these boundaries. And so from very young years, I remember listening to masters like Nivrit Sarnaik, Kumar Gandharva, Bhim Singh Joshi, all those stalwarts, Mallikarjun Mansur, all of them at home. We had a Grundig school recorder, and he used to record all these national programs, Sangeet Sammelans and all that. I used to listen throughout the day. So my intimacy with the sound of Hindustani music was very high, because of my father. And he used to take me for Hindustani concepts. I remember going to a lot of Hindustani concepts at Podar College, at Dadar Matuka Circle, there, even Dinanath Mangeshkar Hall in Vileparlia. So everywhere he used to take me. Yeah, everywhere he used to take me. And then around and then I started naturally playing it on the violin. You know, I used to listen to Bihag and play it on the violin, and it was an imitative process of learning for me. Where I will listen to a Marwa being sung by Bhimsen, and I will try to play the same thing on the violin, and I was very good at it. In the sense that when I was 15 for the All India Radio competitions, you know, the competitions that take place. So I entered in both the categories. Even though I had never formally learned Hindustani, I entered, and in both I won. Just by Kelvi Jnanam. And at that time only I started my formal learning, because there are very few Hindustani violinists. So, and I was automatically placed in the B high grade. Because they felt it that this child can automatically be placed in B high. So every 2 months I used to get a recording contract. So my father also said that you cannot manage with your learning by listening. You have to formally learn. And then we went to KG Gidde. Gidde sir, you know, who was at Sayan. He used to teach at Ballam Sangeet Vidyalaya. Yeah. And so, because he knew me, he had come for a couple of my concerts. He had great regard for.
Just one short word about Ballam Sangeet Vidyalaya. Most oldest and tradition-oriented music school at Sayan. Swaminathan Bhagavatar. There were so many stalwarts, both Hindustani and Carnatic. It is
beautiful place. Beautiful. So, you know, he was also a connoisseur of Carnatic music.
Yeah.
He used to like the intricacies of Carnatic music. So, when we approached him, he put me on to Pandit C.R. Vyas. He said, Vyasji, Vyasbua, I think will be a better teacher for you, because he was a little hesitant. And then, when I went to Vyasji, Pandit Vyasji said, but I don't play the violin. So I said, no sir, you teach me vocal only, I will pick it up, and if you are still happy, we will continue. So I was doing my engineering at that time, at the age of 16. So after my 12th, so I used to keep a violin at his home. His home was like my home. They were so welcoming and so generous in their love.
Because they put Bhutani in Matunga.
No, this is after he had come to Swastik Park in Chembur. Bhutanivas is before. I've also been there. But he had come to Swastik Park. And then after college, I used to come to his home. My violin used to be there. He used to sing. I used to play along. There was very little of formal teaching. Hindustani music, a lot of the teaching, even today, happens in a longer process, not in a methodical, pedagogical way that Carnatic happens. It's not very systematized. It all depends on the students' pick up and the teachers' gharana, whatever. So that was for a long period till he passed away. And he was so generous, and such the whole family, even Guruma, his wife, used to be so. I used to go there after college, so snacks will be there, coffee will be there, you know. And he used to also refuse taking money as fees, but my father always insisted that without Guru Dakshina, and he used to tell, "Why are you giving me so much?" So simple-hearted, so generous-hearted, you know. I can never forget those moments. We will be having class, and suddenly she will come, Maji will come and put on the light, and my Guruji will automatically go towards the light and do pranam. That Surya Vandana, you know, such beautiful things.
Wonderful moment.
It is so beautiful, and that is why their music was so genuine. Forget about mastery and whether they were great or whatever. But they sang with so much of love and so much of Shraddha. So the times with him were very, very good. We also used to discuss a lot. I used to sometimes go to him and say, Guruji, I heard this, it is so beautiful. So he'll say, oh, sab bakwas hai. You don't go listen to it. Don't listen to that.
He was very blunt. Pandit Shia was one artist, always said what he used to say.
उसमें राग का कोई गहराई नहीं है, उसमें कुछ राग का नहीं है, बस ऊपर नीचे तान मार रहे हैं, बस उससे तुम प्रभावित हो Why are you interested in that? Seek the raga in it. So whatever. So he was like a father to me at many levels. After he passed away, of course, then I was going to the US and all that. It was a little difficult. I didn't have a teacher. And then much later, when I met Sri Rajan Mishra after a concert of theirs, then I decided that I wanted to learn from him. So he was, of course, in Delhi. So I used to go once in a while, once in 2-3 months, and spend some time. He also was so giving and so generous. I have this karma phala of my gurus being very, very generous to me. Some karma I would have done in my past life, for which I am bearing fruit. Even the guru I learned from in Karnataka, Professor S.R. Janakiraman, I go to his home, and then there is so much of love. He will cry, he will tell all his stories to me. That is what is so beautiful. I will spend 4-5 hours in his home, and I will not even know the time is gone. And he will teach me so much. He will refuse to take fees. He will not take anything. He'll say, if you are coming with fees, don't come. If you are giving, even for Vijay Dashmi, when we have this thing of keeping some money as dakshina, he will say, no. If you give the fruits, you get the envelope back. That is the kind of generosity that I have, I am so blessed to have. So Hindustani music, of course, a lot of it I started spending a lot of time listening and doing chintan. This idea of doing chintan on the music is something which also was instilled by me by my guru Pandit C. R. Vyas. His full name is Chintamani Raghunath Vyas. So he used to say that 90% of what you sing is going to be due to chintan. 5% is learning, 5% is riyas. 90% is how you think about it. So this same thing resonated with Vishwasa, T. Vishwanath. T. Vishwanath is also very, very thinking musician. If you are a thinking musician and if you have gurus who are thinking musicians, then you will be very, you will kind of be a very happily frustrated musician. Because you are constantly thinking, constantly rethinking, constantly trying to figure out, constantly you are finding, you are never happy and satisfied with what you do. And I started listening to a lot of Amir Khan Sahab, Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab, Kumar Gandharva, Kishori Tai. All these people are my Manasi gurus. So they continue. Even yesterday I was preparing for a Calcutta concert. I wanted to learn this raga Sughai. Sughai is a Kannada variety. So I was listening to a recording of Mallikarjun Mansoorji. On loop, I heard it 20 times yesterday. And that impression, so Mallikarjun Mansoorji becomes my guru. Even though it is not a physical transaction of a guru shishya. What else can I say? There is nothing more. I cannot offer anything to him. His music gives me so much. I can only pass it on. And I can only probably sing it a little sincerely. That's all I can do. But that growth of a musician continues. And I am very lucky in another way is that since I don't belong to a particular gharana or a bani, that's also I take as a blessing in disguise. Because I can explore and sing whatever I catches my love and fancy, I will sing. Whether it be if Ganesh Kumar sings an abang tomorrow, and if I want to listen to it and learn it, I am free to do so. I have no guru who will tell me no. That you should not sing it in this way. So I am kind of.
I must tell you this experience. Very short anecdote. We had invited you to participate in a seminar at NCPA. And you gave a certain observation. And we also had Professor T.N. Krishnan in the audience in the same getting the Lifetime Achievement Award. So after the session was over, somebody else from the Carnatic fraternity asked Sriram apdi sonnare adu seriya? And in response of Professor T.N. Krishnan, he did not know. He said, that abundant sense of confidence, a great Vidwan like T.N. Krishnan, for him to endorse your statement itself is a great thing to.
Yeah. I have been blessed with. I've been blessed with such associations. Whether it be T.N. Krishnan sir, I started learning from him. The last 4-5 years of his life, I was a student. Then when I went to study, he said, "What is there? I don't have anything to teach you. You're already playing so beautifully." So I said, "No, sir. I want to spend time with you. You don't know what I am seeking. It is not learning to play a raga. I want to be with you, and there is so much more for me to learn from you as a musician, and not as just a technician of the violin." You know,
True.
Amazing. I have been so blessed, and I cannot even count. Even today, after TNK Mama is gone, Mami continues to love, show so much love. MSG sir, Lalguri sir, Chandrasekharan sir. Chandrasekharan sir, M. Chandrasekharan sir, for those who may know, he's very, very deep. Such a great musician, such a genuine, good human being. We did a Jugalbandi recently. So he said, as a preparation for Jugalbandi, he said he was a little afraid because he had never played with a Hindustani. So I was playing Hindustani, he was playing Karnataka. So he told, I asked him, "Sir, what all raga shall we play?" He was told, "Go, I will plan. We will plan according to what we want to play." So he said, "Mujavanti last week." So then I went to Mujavanti. I went to his home, and then we composed a ballad. Then he wanted to listen to a little Hindustani Jai for him to get an idea as to how he can interact. So all that is you see that these are great musicians, but they are very open human beings. Professor S.R. Janakiraman also. Similarly, every time I go, he will ask me to sing something Hindustani, and then he wants to learn. So all their achievements are all there, are all very valid, but they continue to be very. They are sadhakas. They want to know more. So I have been blessed, very uniquely blessed.
Now, you are a very accomplished musician, of course, but you are an excellent orator. I mean, you are able to express your thoughts in such nice phraseology that an uninitiated rasika or a listener is able to understand music. How did you, of course, academic, made a few millions here or there, chose to restrict full-time music, and having you are able to think in a very, very logical and communicate that to an audience. Oh well, this oratory ability, I don't think I've met your father, but you seem to have that special trait in terms of speaking. How did that happen?
I will give main credit to three things. One is that my MBA education, take it, this is the proper spirit. My MBA education taught me how to spin yarns. Okay? Because that is what you do when you do marketing. You have to hype up things, you have to put things in colorful words and convey the point across. It's a skill. It's also a skill. I'm not trying to demean anything here. It is just that it's a skill that we acquire. The second person is Vishwasa. Vishwasa initiated me into very intense ways of looking at music. Okay. That is the analysis of musical elements. How you can have the music, present itself in very beautiful ways, not as abstractions. See, abstract is different, but to be able to say, this is what Neelambari is. This is what the bhava is. And of course, reading. I've read a lot about music. So that reading, coupled with Vishwasa's ability to look at things in a very clear way. Right from the smallest gamaka to the most overarching musical paradigm, he will analyze very beautifully. So that helps me. Like I gave a lecture on the idea of nada in Tyagaraja's compositions. I took up 15 compositions and saw how nada was expounded by Tyagaraja, the concept of nada, from so many beautiful different standpoints. In a Sovilu Sapta Swara, how it comes, in a Mokshamu Galada, how it comes, in the Swararaga Sudha, how it comes, the Ragaratna Malikache, how it comes. So we are able to go into their Tyagaraja's thinking process and spiritual process by with the vehicle of his compositions, I have a window into his mind. I'm not claiming anything. I'm just saying that there is so much embedded there. So this process of interpolation, extrapolation, traveling in time, going into the minds of people, how Rajaratnam Pillai thought about the Todi. You just need to get into that frame of mind and think about, இந்த டமகத்தை எப்படி யோசிச்சார், இந்த ஒரு ஜாவி பத்தி எங்கேருந்து வருது, where is this coming from? So that inquisitive mind I have, and hence I seek out such ways of thinking. The third person, most important person, is Swami Dayananda Saraswati, my guru. He was a fascinating conveyor of thought. In the sense, a Vedantic idea, an idea of Ishvara, he will convey to 10,000 people. All 10,000 of them will come from different backgrounds, from different levels of understanding, learning and all that. But all of them will go out of the pravachana or the bhashana thinking that it is their problems that Swamiji particularly addressed. He had that knack of making everybody in that 10,000 feel as if he was speaking to them directly.
On a one-to-one.
One-to-one. And that has been a very great fascination for me. And because I was very close with him and I've been with him for a long time, attending so much of his workshops and classes and all that and talks, I think it has permeated in me. In fact, one student of mine who is also a student of Swamiji used to tell, "Sir, you பேசுறது அப்படியே Swamiji மாதிரியே ஆயிட்டு வருது." So she told that what I am speaking, the tonality, the pauses, the emphasis, the stories that I tell, all of them are resembling the humor. Everything is resembling Swamiji. So
I must share this anecdote. I must share this anecdote on Swami Dayananda Saraswati. I was performing in Coimbatore, and as I finished, he held my hand and he said, "Tomorrow morning." Actually, at that time, how can I say no to such a great personality? So next day morning, to the ashram, and they gave me breakfast. Give me 5 minutes. I will call you. Somebody comes and takes me to that hall. And he was sitting on my pedestal. And he made me sit next to him. You are a Swamiji, you are a great person. He made me sit there and told me the Guru Tattva. At the same level, and I had tears in my eyes. I said, such a great person who is the epitome of a guru, he's asking him how to speak about the Guru Tattva, but later on he analyzed and he wanted to understand what is the Maharashtrian take on it.
Okay.
Saying had a different take on what a guru is. So that, he wanted possibly to listen.
Yes.
And before I have to conclude this chat, I have two observations to make. One is you are a Carnatic vocalist, a great thinker, a great personality. You can get into somebody else's mind, understand how did they perceive it, and it is Tyagaraja Sanadi, offering, because I performed it before. And very, very simple life. They led a very, very simple life. The Rama that he created, he is nothing but a 6-inch Vigraham. That's all.
Yes.
Fantastic magic. And almost we can tell stories through the Kritis. And the depth of their mind, you are able to get into the. Now, while you do all, which is the best that you like the most? Is it playing, it is singing, is it Marathi Abhangs or what is it?
At different times it will vary. If I'm like I taught, if I've taught my student Darbari today morning, this Darbari will not leave me for the rest of the day. So I'm a slave to Darbari for 1 or 2 days, till something equally powerful comes and occupies my mind. So when I'm practicing my violin, something, then I am totally into it, and I am working very hard at it, and that's what I want to do at that time. When I'm singing a Deva Gandhari in Carnatic, I am that. When I'm singing a Sudarai or Sudha Kannada or Bhageshri, I'm that. When I'm teaching, of course, now I teach a lot because I see my contribution to this world of music uh, most in that area, because teaching is something where excellence in performance is very important. Uh, but I think it is teaching which leaves a more significant and valid contribution, because what I have got from my teachers and from my parents and from the Lord is what I leave back. Like how Tukaram will also say, that this is the Upakara. In that Abang, you might know Anureniya Thokada.
Yeah.
So I'll sing that last line. This Bhimsen Joshi sings in Malcolms. Tuka mane ata urala upakara purata. In the previous sentence, he says, Deepa Uzalala Ghati. That is, I have realized the truths. Right? Deepa Uzalala Ghati, Uzalala Ghati, Uzalala Ghati, Arudediya Thokara. He says, Sandili Triputi, Sandili Triputi. He's given up the tripartite illusion of a subject, object, and experience. That is Triputi. He's given it up. He has realized that the truth is beyond this. That Deepa Uzalala Ghati, I have the flame of truth has arisen in me. The last stanza he says, Tuka bhane ata urala upakara purata. He says, the reason why I still live on is as an upakara for you, for my devotees, so that through these words, I can pass on this message to the future.
In fact,
So
this
that,
Abang almost at the end of his life,
yes.
where he himself got enlightened. He went into isolation. He went into the forest and started just enjoying the greatness of Rikshavali and Sukhatari. And in that spark illuminates his mind. He gets enlightened. And then he says, like you rightly said, all that is left out is, passing on this baton of the repository of knowledge, the repository of the repository of abundance to the next generation. And that is all that is left out in me. So beautiful.
So my father also once, when very late in his life, when my brother asked him, how do you see Sriram to be? I am very cherished by my family, my brothers, sisters, and all. I'm the what can I say? The golden boy of the family. Apple of your eye. So how do you see Sriram to be? What do you see him being as? So he said in one word, teacher. So that continues to inspire me, in the sense, because I also see that Swamiji used to say that you have to lead your life and evaluate your life based on how good a contributor you have been. This contribution to the Jagat can be in many ways. It can be as a philanthropist. It can be as an inventor. It can be as an industrialist who gives employment to 100,000 people. They are all contributors. From my point of view, my contribution, whatever small, will be most in terms of the teaching that I share with my students and through my lectures. I nowadays also prefer to do a lot of lectures and seminars and workshops and master classes and all that, because that allows me to share a little bit of the things that I have known and I have learned. So that sharing, hopefully, like also Swamiji used to say, you teach, you used to keep insisting. And he will say, you go and teach musicians also. So that's why in the award that he gave me, he says, a teacher of musicians, he puts in the plaque. That I cherish. I'm sharing it because it is from Swamiji, teacher of musicians. Because he also is a great inspiration for me as a teacher. Because Swamiji also saw himself as a teacher, not as a jnani or a Vedantin or a, what is called a Shreyasi. He saw himself as a teacher. So that is something which I am doing a lot now. And of course, like I say, at each stage, I can obsess with one particular raga for many days, and that gives me so much joy. It's an obsession which is very joyful. You cannot even sleep. You'll wake up the next morning very groggy-eyed. Yeah, but that's because a Charukesi would have taken your mind out, and I will try to meditate, I will try to do Anuloma Viloma, try to go to sleep. But this Charukesi line is so powerful. It will say, to hell with all your sleep techniques. I am here to stay with you for some more time.
It just happened to me very recently. I was from morning. And I was so crossed into that thought that I had forgotten I have already eaten. My wife, where is lunch? She said, you just ate.
Yeah.
And no, but this is a natural thing to happen for anybody who looking inwards, whether it's a raga, whether it's a kriti, or whether it's
absolutely.
And you want to understand all the perspectives of that particular assignment. And Sriram, this brings us to the close of this conversation. So I must thank people who are listening. This journey of anything is not that television, probably not of creating a national level channel. Today it's a listed company, Bombay Stock Exchange, and we to you all aspects of, and we also try to analyze the personality.
Yeah.
Sriram Parasuram is a personality, but we want to actually understand him as a person. How did he do romance? How did he read? Motivates us to a higher elevating ourselves. And we thank all the stalwarts who have participated. I must thank all the participants who have heard to this excellent talk. This will be posted on the YouTube as well as. So keep looking forward. And Sriram, you want to?
I have to thank Ganesh Kumarji because he's as passionate a musician as I am. So maybe even more. It's not a matter of measuring. I can see that he is able to relate to what I was saying, and that itself is such a beautiful thing. I'm very thankful to him. The kind of work that Instinct is doing. Of course, he walks that edge of being a musician and being an organizer and a revolutionary in terms of media for classical music. That commitment and very hard work. I always admire him for the kind of hard work that is involved in. And like they say in Hindi, magachmari hai, finance and this and publicity and media and technology, all those things usually take you away from the music because they are very worldly, but you have managed to keep that your commitment and shraddha in your music and abhang. That's wonderful. That's also grace of the Lord, that He has allowed you to be in both worlds. So beautiful. So I'm very happy that we spent today afternoon. I also have to say that maybe it was titled fun-filled or something like that, Sambhashan. But I even though I cannot talk about music in a fun way, in the conventional sense of what fun is. Fun means generally you are wearing a party hat and you're drinking beer. That is not my idea of fun. My fun of music, that even something which is slightly on the serious side. Serious is also fun. Carnatic music, even though it is not flippant, is also fun. That is something which I want to tell the younger generation. Fun is not listening just to a DJ group. You are limiting your idea of what fun is. If you think that way, you are not doing justice to yourself. Carnatic music is fun. Listening to the mridangam is fun. Learning a raga is fun. It's not unpleasant at all. It's extremely pleasant. It's a beautiful process. So let us also try to redefine fun. I may not have been fun in the conventional sense, but I think this is all fun. Fun doesn't mean that you have to always be flippant and trivial and all that. Because singing Charukesi is also light-hearted.
Yes.
Listening to Charukesi is light-hearted. It makes you feel very light about yourself. You don't need to drag.
Corporate head to me when the concert was going on, and he said, "This is all too." The Carnatic 8 count, and you will realize what fun is.
Yes.
First time he tried to start one thing, made a in half an hour with his intelligence. He and they made the right sum. He had such a smile on his face.
Look of joy.
So when you try to learn something and you achieve it, you have a sense of attainment, sense of contentment, and that is fun.
Yeah, and Indian music is very special in that way. It includes everybody in the music making. The audience, the rasikas are not separate from the performer at all. You are participating in them. Unlike many other classical traditions, here the rasika is at the top of the fun process. You are putting tala, you are enjoying every phrase, you are saying sabash, baba, everything you are saying. In an abhang concert or in a bhajana concert, in a sampradaya bhajana concert, namavali concert, everybody is singing, everybody is dancing. It is all, our forefathers and rishis were master of this fun idiom, and it is all.
Lectures in Chennai, you make the audience participate in your journey. For example, if you ensure that everybody is listening to it and you question them every 10 minutes to see whether they are there or not. Watching you in the leg dance. Pleasure talking to you,
and
going to continue.
Yes.
From
yes.
You. So we will. This is Sriram Part 1.
Yeah, surely. And thank to all the listeners for the patient listening and watching. And thank you to Itzing. And thanks to my parents and my gurus who make it possible for me to have some kind of a Tagadi na caliber to talk about music. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. We will see you next Saturday. All my friends.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you. Namaste, Ganesh.